Good morning. Happy Monday. Committee on Local Government will come to order. Clerk, open the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. First off, we have 2 pages joining us with us to help us out this morning. If you could introduce yourself and let us know where you're from. Happy Monday.
Hi, I'm Sophia Niklinko, and I'm from Hanover County.
Hi, I'm Margaret Bartos. I'm from Fairfax.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. All right, first up on the docket, we're going to have House Bill 405. This has been requested by General Laws and Technology. Is there a motion to re-refer?
So moved.
All right, there's a motion and a second to re-refer House Bill 405. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 9, no 0.
All right, that bill is re-referred. So we have similar docket structure as last week. We have some identical bills, uncontested. We have some bills that are similar, and then we have House bills that did not have a Senate companion to work through. And so we'll first take up a block of identical bills, uncontested. First up, House Bill 61. This was identical to Senator Head's bill, dealing with enterprise zones, renewable periods, authorizing the governor, upon the recommendation of the Director of Department of Community Housing, to renew enterprise zones for up to 4 to 5 years. Reported from this committee on a 15-0 vote and passed the Senate on 40-0 vote. Is there a motion? All right, there's a motion and a second to report House Bill 61. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 10, no 0.
All right, that bill reports. Next up is House Bill 91, dealing with the charter of the town of Smithfield, identical to Senator Jordan's Senate Bill 309, which reported from this committee 13-0 and passed the Senate 40-0.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to report House Bill 91. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 11, no 0.
That bill reports. Next up is House Bill 227, Delegate Cherry, dealing with the charter of the City of Colonial Heights, identical to Senate Bill 12, Senator Sturdivant, which reported from this committee 11-1, but also passed the Senate 40-0.
Move to report. Second.
There's a motion and a second to report House Bill 227. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 11, no 0.
That bill reports. Next up is House Bill 682, Delegate O'Quinn, charter for the City of Bristol. This is identical to Senate Bill 618, Senator Pillion, which reported from this committee 15-0 and passed the Senate 40-0.
Move to report. Second.
There's a motion and a second to report House Bill 682. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 12, no 0.
That bill reports. Next up is House Bill 1127, Delegate Arnold, dealing with the charter for the town of Pulaski. It's identical to Senate Bill 475, Senator Hackworth, which reported from this committee 15-0 and passed the Senate 40-0.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 12, no 0.
That bill reports. Next up is House Bill 1138, Delegate Cordoza, dealing with Fort Monroe Authority, the powers and duties, renames Executive Director of the Fort Monroe Authority as Chief Executive Officer of the Authority. Passed General Laws 19-0, passed Local Government 13-0 and passed the Senate 40-0.
Move to report.
There's a motion and a second to report House Bill 1138. Clerk, open the roll. All right.
Ayes 14, no 0.
That bill reports. Next up is House Bill 1139, Delegate Cordoza, Fort Monroe Authority, Land and Utility Ownership. The entire committee hopes that we don't see any more Fort Monroe bills for the next couple of years, and removes the number of acres and instrument numbers for quick claim deed from the clerk's office. We're familiar with this bill. It reported from local government on 15-0 and passed the Senate 38-0.
Move to report.
There's a motion to second report House Bill 1139. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0.
All right, that bill reports. Next up is House Bill 1208, Delegate Hayes, dealing with the charter of the city of Portsmouth, amends the charter for the city by aligning the dates of nomination of candidates. And a question from council, did they align to the Senate amendments? I believe it had amendment in this committee. Delegate Hayes is nodding his head. We struck the actual dates and referred back to the code section. All right, so it is identical.
Second.
This motion, second to report House Bill 1208. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0.
All right, that bill reports. Next up are identical bills which had a piece of a contested vote somewhere along the lines. First up is House Bill 376, Delegate Gilbert, dealing with the town of Newmarket, which is identical to Senator French's Senate Bill 375, which reported and passed the Senate on a 40-0 vote.
Mr. Park.
There's a motion, a second, to report House Bill 376. Clerk, open the roll.
We were just hazing Timmy.
Ayes 14, no 0.
All right, that bill reports. Next up is House Bill 416, Delegate Converse Fowler's, dealing with the charter of the city of Virginia Beach, which reported from local government 13-0 and passed the Senate 40-0.
Mr. Park.
There's a motion and a second to report House Bill 416. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0.
That bill reports. All right, let's see, we're going to have Delegate Hayes. You also have House Bill 1211. I know you've got to chair a committee in just a few, so if the committee can focus on House Bill 1211.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. You have before you HB 1211. The purpose for this, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, is to simply make the process smoother. We have properties in the city of Chesapeake that are not on city water and sewer. And the code says that you have to get 75% of landowners. And we're simply asking that it go to parcels, those 75% of those who own the parcels, to actually weigh in order to be a part of the public utilities, water and sewer.
Questions of the patron? Senator Sturtevant.
Mr. Chairman, just one question for the patron is, how does this play out practically speaking when you change it from number of landowners to parcels? Why would there be a difference there?
Sounds like the rich guy.
The city seems to believe that it will make a much more fairer process. What they've run into in the past is in the case where there may be many owners of properties, and those folks have a larger or much more stronger weight in voting of whether or not you have to connect that neighborhood to city water and sewer. And so what they're trying to do here is to make it a much more fair process. If you, in case, have an investor's property and there are 30 owners, that weight is much more greater than the individuals that own parcels. And the taxing is actually applied to the parcels themselves. We have, I think, Mr. David Westcott from the city, who's here if you like, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll get to that in just a moment. We have a couple more questions. We have Senator Williams-Graves, followed by Senator Hackworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think my question might be for the city representative, but I'll ask it, Mr. Chair, to the patron. So if, for example, my husband and I owned a parcel, we're two landowners, but one parcel. So if there were someone next to us who was a singular landowner and a singular parcel. Now you have 3 landowners but 2 parcels. So is this bill saying that we're going to count the 2 parcels as opposed to the 3 people who own the land? We're going to now just count the parcels themselves. And so we're looking at 75% of the parcels, not 75% of the people.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Delegate Hayes.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, Madam Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Hackworth, followed by Senator Suderline.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'm just really trying to wrap my head around this. Why that, was this something that was brought to you by request, or, I mean, I guess I'm back to what the original question was. How would this affect, and why is it needed?
So, Mr. Chairman, Senator
Delegate
Hackworth, this was requested by the city of Chesapeake. I guess being a mature city, kind of moving to where it is, there's a lot of land in areas that do not have city water and sewer, but then the majority of the city is on city public utilities. And so the city is trying to offer and get as much as we can for health reasons and others to have as many properties on city water and sewer. And so they're attempting to tackle this in that fashion. And some of the trouble that they're running into in cases is the fact that that threshold of 75% of the landowners. And quite honestly, when they approach some of those parcels, when they're owned by many, many more landowners, and then they decide that they don't want to get on city water, then it's kind of leaving an unhealthy situation.
Thank you, Delegate Hayes. So we're going to go ahead and take testimony in support. Maybe the city could come up and address some of the questions that have been heard, and then we'll take any opposition, and then we'll go to Senator Suderline, who's in the queue for a question. So those in support, please come up, state your name, any online, and one online. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Westcott on behalf of the City of Chesapeake. Delegate Hayes really talked about the bill, exactly what we would like to accomplish here. In a lot of cases, and also just to add, we do have our Public Utilities Director with the City of Chesapeake online for any detailed questions that y'all might have, and maybe some real-life examples of what also is happening in the city. But as Delegate Hayes mentioned, the City of Chesapeake, we have older communities that are currently not on, city water or sewer, and these older communities are surrounded by newer communities, and really this bill is not brought by the city to Delegate Hayes, but it's brought through our citizens asking us how can we make this process easier for us to be able to hook up to these public utilities that are offered. And so with that, that's why we brought this to Delegate Hayes. But for any questions that y'all might have as far as like real life examples, we do have David Juergens, our Public Utilities Director, through Zoom or WebEx or whatever it may be.
Great. Thank you very much. And we have the individual online. Go ahead, turn your camera on, state your name, and 1 minute, please.
I believe my camera is on. My name is David Juergens. I'm the Utilities Director for the City of Chesapeake. When this comes up, the neighbors approach the city requesting to be connected to public utilities. They initiate a petition, and I've met in the living rooms on at least 6 or 7 different neighborhoods that have wanted to go through this process. And the question always comes up, why does one parcel have more weight simply because it has more owners, and that can skew the petition so that some neighborhoods aren't able to get the utilities because one parcel that has many owners outweighs the votes of other parcels that may only have 1 or 2 owners. What this does is this puts equal weight to each parcel rather than equal weight to each owner of the parcel.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us and helping to provide those examples to us. Those in opposition to House Bill 1211. All right, questions from the committee. We have follow-up, Senator Suderline, then Senator Williams-Graves. Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when I read this bill, it appears to me that one landowner or a small combination of them that happen to own 3/4 of the parcels of the total parcels, they'll get to decide, even though there might be a lot more people. And it seems to sort of run counter to the way we do everything else in the Commonwealth for a long time, where, it does matter how many people are involved. And so it seems a little, it was unexpected when I read this bill to begin with, that we would allow people that own a lot of land to make the decision in the code over a multitude of people, and we're moving away from people and moving to land, and that's just not the way we do things. So that's just my concern.
Senator Williams-Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Delegate Hayes, the option for individuals, should this pass, to hook up to city water and sewer, it's still optional, right? If a neighborhood decided that they wanted access, a particular individual homeowner or landowner would not be forced, correct? They would have the option because it was now available. As where it stands right now, it's not available as an option at all. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Williams-Graves, I believe the way that this will go is if 75% of the parcel owners vote to get on city water or sewer, then the persons would have to, in that area, I believe it's whatever the cost to do so would be divided amongst those parcel owners, and they would have to get on city sewer and water at that point.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Senator Williams-Graves.
So what you're saying is if they all voted to go city water and sewer, and no disrespect to the delegate, but I'm looking at the city guy over here, they're all going to now be required to do it? Or does it just make it an option to do it?
Delegate Hayes.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Williams-Graves, it's my understanding at that point they would have to. We do have Mr. David Gurgen, who's the director, as well as Mr. Westcott, if you'd like to weigh in, Mr. Chairman.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Hayes. Mr. Jurgens, are you online and still available to the committee?
Yes, sir.
All right, did you hear the question? Are you able to respond to that?
Yes, sir. The answer to the question is they would be required to connect within 6 years of those utilities becoming available and accessible and in service for the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Hackworth.
So, Ms. Chair, a question to the patron. So within those 6 years, would they have to pay like a non-user's fee? And would they have to also maybe assessed for the cost of the project as well?
There's a
Delegate Hayes, Mr. Jurgens is also still online and available if you want him to refer to that.
I defer to Mr. Jurgen.
So there is a fixed fee if the petition gets signed and the city council approves it. There's a fixed fee based on water or sewer that every parcel would be required to pay. And there would not be a non-user fee charged if they do not connect for that 6-year period.
All right, Senator Hackworth, sounds like the answer is no.
No, they would be charged. There's a fixed fee that would be charged to every parcel owner, correct?
There is a fixed fee based on the water service or sewer service or both, and that is part of the petition itself that they agreed to when they signed the petition. So that's known and identified up front. That fee is charged over a 20-year period. As far as charges for non-consumption or for non-using, there is no fee related on a monthly or bi-monthly basis based on non-consumption.
Senator Diggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for the patron.
Senator Diggs.
Delegate Hayes, as I see this, this is a matter of fairness as such. Let's say 20 years ago, I was a developer and I developed a place with 40 lots that didn't have sewer and water. I then sold off 20 of those lots and I have 20 remaining. As it is now, the owners are the ones that count and not the parcels. So as the developer, I still own 20 lots, 20 parcels, but I only get one vote, where the individuals each get a vote. This would change it so that I, as the developer who owned 20 lots, would then get 20 votes, and everybody else who owns an individual parcel gets one vote. So to me, I think it's a fairer system that the parcel owners would get the votes based on how many parcels you owned. And there could be others. Somebody could have bought 3 parcels that were adjoining and something, so that one owner would now get 3 votes. So it's more of how many parcels are there as opposed to owners. And we're really, to me, it's much fairer as a way of parcels. Am I correct in that assumption?
Delegate Hayes.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Diggs, I guess it's a matter of perspective. Right now, it appears to be an obstacle for the land owners who are singly owning parcels, and any other properties, say for instance, if they're investors and a particular parcel is owned by 10 different owners, then it's weighted in that direction as well. So I guess this issue of fairness seems to be like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder.
Senator Van Valkenburg.
Speaking to the bill, Mr. Chair. Briefly, Mr. Chair, I'm going to vote for this bill and have a motion at the appropriate time, because it seems to me like the threshold on this thing is so high that when we get into the weeds of what are they going to pay, what are they not going to pay, the community has to reach such a high threshold. And in democracy, most of the times it's 50% plus one, and then 49% still has to do what the 50.1% said. And they're meeting such a strenuous standard to try to get water service. It seems like that's the thing that we need to do.
All right, the bill's before the committee. Is the motion?
So moved. Move to report, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion to report and a second. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 4.
That bill reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next up we have in the queue, let's see, we're going to take up a couple uncontested. Delegate Wright, House Bill 59. Delegate Wright, followed by Delegate Knight, followed by, we'll see on the list.
Good
Delegate
morning,
Wright.
Mr. Chairman, committee members. House Bill 59 adds planning districts 13 and 14 to the list of areas where localities may create a regional industrial facility authority that contains a town and only one city or county, rather than at least 2 cities or counties. And this is better for areas that, say, within one county want to have this type of facility, regional industrial facility. They don't have to partner with another county or another town. They can do it with just one town within the county.
Great. Thank you, Delegate. Any opposition to House Bill 59? Any questions from the committee to the delegate?
Motion and speech to the bill, Mr. Chair.
Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to harm the bill. We're going to vote for it. This is a very obvious Christmas tree that should be cut down in the future. There's no reason where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planning districts now that are included and a bunch of others that aren't. This just doesn't make sense in the code, but it still doesn't hurt the bill. So just wanted to say that, Mr. Chair.
Was that a motion?
You already made it.
All right, motion and second to report House Bill 59. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
That bill reports.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up, Delegate Knight.
Mr. Chairman, I have House Bill 1054. And House Bill 1054 gives localities the discretion to require property owners of former golf courses abutting residential areas to maintain the vegetated growth on the former golf course. And these courses often functions as the heart of the residentially zoned neighborhoods. It's not fair when, let me tell you what exactly precipitated this. In Virginia Beach, and of course I understand all across the state of Virginia's golf courses are now, some of them are going broke or they're going down. We had a neighborhood of 400 homes, 400 very nice homes near Virginia Beach Courthouse, had a very nice golf course in the middle of it. The developer went broke after many, many years. They sold the bank note to an out-of-state person. This out-of-state person came in there and just let it grow up. Grew up in all kinds of weeds. The neighbors complained. Then he put up a spite fence where they couldn't even see it. So what he wants to do, so after this, then it caught a fire. The golf course caught a fire, smoked up everything. It's a hazard. They've got all kinds of mice and rats and everything living in this thing now. And all they've got to do is just maintain it a little bit. But what the gentleman wants to do is now he's got an option. Another guy's got an option on the property. They want to, this is a proffered rezoning. It said we'll build houses around it. This will be open space. Now the gentleman says, after all this spite fence, I can make it look pretty again by putting 20 houses in there. So that is the reason that he's letting this grow up, letting the spite fence go up. I read about it in the paper, really didn't even talk to the neighbors, just thought it would be something good to do. I know the city of Chesapeake voluntarily saw this and said, we think this is something good and we're going to sign on to it. I don't know where Virginia Beach is on it, but this is just it's declarative of existing law. It's belt and suspenders. It gives a little bit more oomph to just saying, if you buy a golf course or if you have a golf course, you own it, just maintain it a little bit so it doesn't become a public nuisance.
Thank you, Delegate. Those in support House Bill 1054, please come up, state your name.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Brent McKenzie with the City of Virginia Beach. As Delegate Knight described, this legislation would provide a valuable tool for us to help solve situations in this manner, and we hope the committee will agree and support the legislation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Westcott on behalf of the City of Chesapeake. We appreciate Delegate Knight carrying this legislation. This is certainly something that will help us in our community with a number of golf courses that we have in the City of Chesapeake, and we hope that you support the bill.
Good. Thank you. Those in opposition to House Bill 1054, please come up, state your name. In opposition.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Miles Laurie, representing JPWK LLC. They're the owner of the former golf course in Virginia Beach that has inspired this bill, and a bill that will adversely impact otherly similarly situated properties around the Commonwealth. Mr. Chairman, the bill singles out one specific category of property, those who own former golf courses, and prohibits them from being able to modify their property. The language beginning on line 63 prevents landowners from changing, and I'm quoting here, the character of the former golf course property so as to be incompatible with the surrounding residential area. This language is in and of itself incredibly vague. Localities already have tools to require property owners to maintain their property. The bill goes much further than that by limiting a landowner's ability to modify their property, which limits an owner's ability to pursue additional enhanced uses for the property and could dramatically impact the value of that property. And for these reasons, Mr. Chairman, we hope that you'll oppose House Bill 1054. Thank you.
Thank you. In the queue, we have Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron.
Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would ask the patron, is there active litigation regarding this right now?
Please repeat that.
Mr. Chair, I would ask the patron if there is active litigation regarding this golf course right now.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Rome.
From what I was told, there was a active litigation that was showing up in federal court where it said West Neck Community Association, Inc. versus JBWK. Perhaps the person who spoke in opposition would be able to speak to this. It said date of last filing was December 22nd, 2023.
Mr. Loria.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rome, I am not certain if that litigation is still active. We're actually trying to get an answer for that. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that, though. I think that it might be, but I don't want to represent to the committee that absolutely I'm sure of it.
Mr. Chairman, could this bill go by temporarily, please, so we can get an answer to that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. House Bill 1054 will go by temporarily. Let's see. Next up in the queue. All right, we're going to take Delegate Coiner. You have.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I have House Bill 650. The bill before you retains complete local control over whether or not you approve solar projects or conditional use permits. So it retains full local control. It simply says that if you're going to provide a conditional use permit, the minimal amount of time for folks to be able to commence construction with those would be 3 years. It's taking an extremely long time from when you go before your local city council or your board of supervisors and you obtain that conditional use permit to actually be able to commence construction. Just everything's taking longer. So I do believe we have peace in the valley on this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great. Is there any opposition to House Bill 650?
Move to report, Mr. Chair.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report House Bill 650. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0, 1 abstention.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Coiner. Let's see, we also have.
Delegate Hope is behind our and then.
All right, Delegate McQuinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. I have House Bill 415.
Thank you, Delegate.
Proceed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, House Bill 415 is a bill that would allow Virginia local governments the ability to protect historic structures by putting guardrails on the demolition and unapproved demolition of a building or structure located in an old and historic district or designated by the governing body as a historic district or landmark. We had heard from many, that is not God calling, so anyway. So,
you got coverage everywhere.
I apologize. We had heard from older Virginia cities and towns that are experiencing a situation, particularly during these economic times, where apparently people are making it's more expedient for them, for building owners to seek forgiveness rather than approval for the raising or demolition of a structure in designated Virginia historic districts. And so, Mr. Chair, the building just basically once again give local government the ability to protect those historic districts, the integrity of the communities, and that's basically what this bill is doing, keep it from being torn down.
Thank you, Delegate. Is there opposition to House Bill 1415?
Move to report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report House Bill 1415. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 10, noes 3, 2 abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Okay, all right.
All right, we have, let's see. Delegate Hope.
Mr. Chairman, I have two bills before you. Numerically, House Bill 529 House Bill 529, Mr. Chairman. The objective here is to restore lost tree canopy. It will expand existing authority of local governments to set tree replacement requirements for site development to protect and restore tree canopy that have currently been in a severe state and decline. It amends existing replacement tree canopy percentage requirements by allowing 25 to 30% minimum requirements for sites of 5 or few units or acres. And as existing law, the bill does not require local governments to have ordinances that set forth these requirements. The percentage requirements only apply if a locality chooses to adopt a tree ordinance that addresses the replacement tree. So it's permissive only. I want to thank all the different stakeholders, all can imagine, have all come together and get consensus around this bill. And I'm not aware of opposition, but that's the bill before you.
Thank you, Delegate Hope. If there's opposition to House Bill 529, please come forward. State your name, organization, and opposition. All right, see no one jumping.
Mr. Chair?
Senator Rome.
On behalf of the Lorax, move to report.
All right, this is a motion and a second to report House Bill 529. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 9, noes 5.
All right, that bill reports. Delegate Hope, you have another one.
Mr. Chairman. Next bill, House Bill 1395, and I do have an amendment that I want to offer, and I think this would alleviate a lot of the heartburn about this bill.
All right, you want to...
Starting on line 36 through 39, I want to unstrike the stricken language there, and I want to strike the new language starting on line 39. So it's basically just this one provision up above it.
All right, you want to explain the net effect of those, not just the line numbers,
I'll be
but the net
glad to.
effect.
I mean, that provision, the bill is trying to, under historic preservation, try to make every effort that we can to preserve a site. If a permit's going to come forward to the locality to raise or demolish a site, if it's historic, we want to give it an opportunity to make sure, if it is in fact historic, to make sure that the process has run its course. That language that I'm striking would allow you to appeal a locality's decision, so allow for standing to come in there. And I know that's very controversial, and so I went ahead and strike that language. The only language that's remaining, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, is to allow 30 days. So once the local authority rules in favor of the permit, it gives 30 days before that permit is issued. What that will do is it does allow the historic process to play its course in that 30 days. It won't change the outcome of it, but it may allow that if there are artifacts on site, maybe the opportunity for you to go and retrieve those artifacts if, in fact, the developer, the owner, would permit it. That's all the bill does.
All right, is there a motion on the amendment?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the amendments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The amendments are properly before the committee, which is now essentially 30 days.
30 days. That's all.
Senator Hackworth, followed by Senator Diggs, followed by Senator Williams-Graves. Senator Hackworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron. On lines 23 through 25, can you just explain what that does there, where it says the final of the application shall stay located from issuing any permit to raise or demolish the proposed historic landmark, building, or structure in 30 days of the rendering of the final decision of the government? I mean, is that, what if the governing body takes a year to make that decision? I mean, is that going to, because it's saying until 30 days after the rendering of the final decision of the governing body, would that hold this property into basically a holding pattern until that happened?
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate
after
Hope.
the decision, it'd be 30 days after that. So it does not hold it longer than 30 days before the decision is made. So it's just a 30-day extension. It's not anything longer than that.
Okay.
But it's after this decision, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, Senator Diggs, followed by Senator Williams-Graves, followed by Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron. If you could please explain to me, I'm talking about lines 39, that which was struck. I certainly think it's appropriate for the property owner and the applicant to have an appeal process. However, I don't agree that any resident who spoke at a public hearing who doesn't agree get to appeal the decision. Can you explain what was struck out of that, like lines 39 through 41 again, please?
Delegate Hope.
Mr. Chairman, that's exactly what I struck, so.
The whole?
Yeah, the whole thing has been struck.
The other.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Senator Williams Graves.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just speaking to the bill, I just have an issue with folks being able to frivolously sue the city for a decision they didn't like. I think it costs extra time.
Senator, that's now struck in the amendments. That controversial provision was removed in terms of providing standing to any party to then sue based on a land use decision. That's now no longer in the bill.
But in this first part of the bill, there's still a provision, Mr. Chair, for folks to be able to sue them. Just note an objection, Mr. Chair.
It's not there.
Delegate Hope.
It's not in the added language. That doesn't exist, Senator.
Okay.
Senator Van Valkenburg.
Question for the patron, Mr. Chair. As I read the bill, the original bill, there's an interplay between the two sections, right? Which is we're holding it up for 30 days, and then that's allowing a lot of people to frivolously sue and hold up projects. And now that that part's out, I still read it as, I'm not really sure why we're holding things up for 30 days if the approval process has been met. I mean, it seems to me like the only thing that's doing is trying to gum up the works for actually moving forward. So I guess I'm wondering, what are we getting out of 30 days? I mean, I know I heard you say people could get stuff out, but I don't understand why they wouldn't be able to do that anyway. Who's going to kind of callously just like destroy a building with everything in it? I mean, maybe that happens, but I don't know. I have a hard time with this.
Mr. Chairman, that does happen.
And
it has happened.
Delegate Hope.
That does happen. It has happened. That's why I brought the bill initially, and that's why it has the two sections in it. But I do want to point out about the existing language that we're unstriking. Now, be very clear about that. It does allow by ordinance for a locality to decide who can sue. So it doesn't say you can't sue. In fact, a locality could write in their ordinance, it could be the developer, it could be the owner, it could be anyone else who they deem to allow to appeal the locality's decision. So I don't touch that. That could already be in ordinances throughout the state. The 30 days, all as it does is it does slow the trains down a bit so that we avoid bulldozing. In my situation, we had a bulldozer that was there, was coordinated within 12 hours of the decision. Now, we believe that there are a lot of artifacts on the site which I was in question why I brought this bill, but that's all destroyed now. But the 30 days does allow, if the owner permits it, because it's still their property, they permit you to go on there during that 30 days. You could go retrieve some artifacts, and then, of course, they can do with it as they plan. Doesn't change that.
Senator Rome, followed by Senator
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron. Mr. Chair, I would ask the patron line 24 regarding the 30 days part. Isn't it true that a locality could very well have a member who does a motion to reconsider, in the month afterward, and therefore this will give the time period, necessary for anything that could play out between there and the next either council or board meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I absolutely agree that could happen. There could be a process of historical designation that could go through the process, and a locality could reconsider their decision, which is their prerogative.
Mr. Chair, speaking to the bill.
Senator Rome.
Mr. Chair, I've in the 9 years I covered local government in western Prince William County, I've definitely seen that play out before. And so this is just insurance to make sure that if the locality is going to do something, that they're serious about it. And at the next meeting, if no other changes happened, then off you go.
Senator Pekarsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron. I just want to ask just a very simple question of the delegate. On line 23, the filing of the application, can you clarify what exactly that application is?
Mr. Chairman, it may be the application to raise or demolish the site in question.
All right. Any opposition to House Bill 1395?
Move to report as amended.
All right, there's a motion and there's a motion and a second to report as amended, House Bill 1395. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 9, no 6.
That
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That is hard.
that bill reports. All right, all right, come on. Delegate Knight, you're back up, sir.
The information, speaking of House Bill 1054, the information I've got is the city attorney from Virginia Beach doesn't know of any pending litigation whatsoever against the city it's involved in, and there's no active litigation the city attorney from Chesapeake is aware of. It's come to my attention there possibly is a private citizen that may have filed a lawsuit, and the private citizen may have, I guess they live in the neighborhood. I don't know. Anybody can file a lawsuit, but I think the thing's been continued, or I don't know what the status is of it now.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Stanley.
Mr. Chairman, based on the request by Senator Rome, I looked in the PACER Federal Eastern District filing system. There is currently a pending case called WestNet Community Association, Inc., which is a homeowners association, not an individual, versus JBWK LLC defendant. Filed in 2022. It was filed originally in state court and removed to federal court based on diversity jurisdiction in excess of $75,000. The parties are from different states. It is pending right now. The last action was a report of a magistrate judge who determined that federal jurisdiction could be exercised over this case. Mr. Chairman, I would remind members of the committee that also it deals with exactly the issue that's brought before this committee in terms of WestNet Community Association seeking injunctive relief to enforce their homeowners association requirements when it comes to mowing and maintaining the golf course. It does go into the facts about the fence and the other things that the delegate spoke about, but Mr. Chairman, as a member of the Virginia State Bar, I would say this case is pending right now in a federal court action with similar, if not identical, issues before this committee, in the sense that the federal court is asked to determine whether the homeowners association can seek injunctive relief to make JBWK LLC cut the lawn. Yes, I am the champion. And to mow the grass and maintain it. So this is pending right now, and it's now that the magistrate has ruled diversity is there, the complaint that was filed by WestNet Community Association has been answered by JBWK.
All right, Senator Williams-Graves.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion at the appropriate time.
I think now would be appropriate.
I move that we PBI
Carry over.
to, just PBI indefinitely. Just pass by indefinitely.
All right. There's a motion to PBI.
Substitute motion to carry over for a year.
Not hearing a second. Motion to carry over. There's a motion, a second to carry over. Clerk, open the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ayes
Thank you.
14, no 0.
All right. That bill is carried over. Next up in the queue, Delegate Carr, followed by Batten, followed by Reeser, followed by Carlson. Delegate Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. HB 1100 expands the optional conservation of trees ordinance to be allowed statewide. It is currently only offered to Planning District 8, which originally granted this authority in an effort to improve air quality. All localities should have the option to adopt ordinances that would improve their air quality, but also reduce flooding, boost resiliency, and reduce polluted stormwater runoff from entering streams and the Chesapeake Bay. Fairfax adopted this ordinance in 2009 and has not seen a slowdown in development, but has preserved much of their tree canopy. I believe members from the conservation community are here in attendance to speak to the bill.
Thank you. Those in opposition to 1100, House Bill 1100. Come on up, state your name and opposition.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Phil Abraham, Representative, Virginia Association for Commercial Real Estate. With all due respect to Delegate Carr, my association and other development organizations have supported the other tree bills that have come through this committee that have amended the tree replacement statute, but unfortunately we can't support this bill because of flaws in this in this Northern Virginia statute. As Delegate Carr mentioned, Fairfax County has adopted this statute, but in the 16 years that it's been in existence, that's the only major jurisdiction in Northern Virginia that has adopted it. Not Prince William, not Arlington, not Loudoun, not Alexandria. They all have gone with tree replacement statutes or a variation thereof. In 2022, we worked for months with representatives of the conservation community and local governments to amend this statute to try and come up with a statewide bill that was more workable. And Delegate Bulova and Senator Marsden put that bill in. We supported it throughout the 2022 session. Unfortunately, it did not pass the House. What's not in this bill that was in that statute, provisions for mixed-use developments, allowances for a 10% increase in canopies when development is near sensitive areas, process for the state forester to establish uniform standards for determining when the canopy requirements have been met, allowing for deviations to encourage redevelopment as opposed to greenfield development, authorizing NGOs to establish tree banks, incentivizing the planting of trees in formerly redline communities or in areas with low-income housing. These and many other provisions that we worked in good faith on in 2022 are not in this bill, and that's why we cannot support it this year. Thank you. We hope if they come back in the future and this bill passes that they will work with us to incorporate these provisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those in support of House Bill 1100, please come forward and state your name. All right, we got a couple takers coming up on your left side. Please state your name or organization if you represent one, and be brief because we got still a few other controversial dockets to go, items to go through.
Good morning, Ann Jerzyk with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. We support the bill. As she said, Planning District 8 currently is the only locality that has the ability to conserve trees during the construction process. So all of us have seen when a development has happened and the lot's been clear cut, this really just provides incentives so the locality can work with the development community to conserve some of the trees on that lot. So it's good for stormwater, it's good for air quality, and we hope that you'll support the bill.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, Nathan Thompson with the James River Association. Given the rate of development that we're seeing within our watershed and the permissive nature of the bill and its potential ability to reduce toxic stormwater runoff, we support the bill. Thank you.
Zach Scott with the Potomac Conservancy. I just want to echo my colleague here from the James River Association. We are seeing similar toxic runoff in the Potomac River, and really this bill just places authority in the hands of local governments, the areas that know their populations best, and allows them to support their environment the best way that they know how. Thank you, Delegate Carr.
Great, thank you very much. Questions from the committee. Senator Rome.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion. I'd like to speak to the motion.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to report, and speaking to that, may I remind everyone this is permissive, and yes, Fairfax County has adopted it. I hope Prince William would, by the way, as someone who's representing Prince William County, and I did not hear any argument earlier that said that what Fairfax County has done is inherently wrong with this, or that there has been a flaw because of what Fairfax County has done with this. And the reality is, if another locality wishes on their own, unison to adopt this, that's their business, not ours. So with that, I renew my motion to report.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report House Bill 1100. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 9, no 6.
That bill reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Thank
committee.
you. All right, next up we have Delegate Batten.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have before you House Bill 1052.
This legislation requires localities to check with the Department of Health's database prior to notifying property owners of the required maintenance of their septic systems. There are a couple different types of septic systems in the Commonwealth. We have conventional ones, and then there are alternative on-site septic systems, and they require different types of maintenance. And this just ensures that property owners with these systems have the correct information to properly maintain their systems to prevent adverse impacts to the environment and public health.
All right, those in opposition to House Bill 1052? Those in support? Any questions from the committee? Senator Pekarsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the delegate. It's my understanding that some localities, I assume the larger localities, have their own database. So how does that fit into your bill?
Thank you for the question.
Delegate Batten.
I appreciate that. I believe that they would just need to make sure that they checked with the Department of Health at the beginning of the process. So it's not like an annual requirement or every notification, but just to run it by to make sure that there's no conflicting information. The challenge that we have is that some localities, even some of the larger ones, don't maintain that database, and so they are giving incorrect information to people. So it would just be a one-time check through, make sure that the health department information is consistent with the locality's information as well. So I would assume that if a home was constructed, that would happen at the time of the construction.
Okay. I heard a motion and a second to report House Bill 1052. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, next up we have, come on up, Delegate Rees.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. May I speak to the bill? I have HB 1028, which seeks to assist the affordable housing crisis, especially our seniors. This is a permissive bill that would allow localities the option, if they have an affordable housing program, to set aside units in assisted living facilities which apply for a new license or a special permit or an exception after January 1st of 2025. May I speak to the bill? Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the number of assisted living facilities for lower income adults has been steadily decreasing over the last 20 years while the need is continuing to increase. And it is estimated that in the next 5 years, over half of the middle income adults who will need living care will not be able to afford it. This is according to a nonpartisan research organization at the University of Chicago. So I bring this bill forward to the committee to allow the permissive option for localities that want to provide this to their communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Those in opposition to House Bill 1028, please come forward. Those in opposition.
Move to report, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Any questions from the committee? All right, there's a motion and a second to report House Bill 1028. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 8, noes 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you, Delegate. Next up, we have Delegate Carlson.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, the subcommittee, or committee, sorry.
Welcome back to a second Monday in a row.
Yes, I know. Last week, as I'm sure you're all aware, I presented a bill that sought to get rid of the caps for city council salaries. It passed out of the House with fairly broad bipartisan support. I was quickly availed of the fact that that does not mean anything here. And I was very happy to be given the opportunity to work on that bill more in depth and to reach out to you and your staff and hopefully come to a place where there's some peace in the valley. And with that, I have a substitute I would like to introduce.
All right. There's a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. All in favor say aye. 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 As opposed? Substitute is probably before the committee. You want to explain the substitute?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair McPike. So this substitute does a few things. One, it reinstates the caps. Two, it adjusts those caps to reflect 25 years of inflationary growth, rounded down to the nearest 1,000. So these numbers I drew from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics CPI inflation calculator. I also had them checked with Virginia Municipal League. I used the date July 1998, which is when this bill went into effect, up to January of this year. Thirdly, it also adds and tries to mirror some of the provisions that are set up in the alternative Board of Supervisors salary structure. So as a quick recap, towns have a section that just tells them they can set their salaries. Board of Supervisors have a section that says they can set their own salaries, and another section that says if you want to use a legislative salary structure, here it is. And then cities have just the mandatory caps. So this tries to get some of the language from that alternative structure of the Board of Supervisors by setting caps, adding a public notice requirement, keeping the requirements of when these changes can go into effect, which you can read in the bill, and allowing a mechanism by which they can raise it 5% a year. Every fiscal year, as long as it falls into those criteria of when the elections happen. So, and then if I have a moment, I do have people to provide testimony, but I also like to take a quick moment to just talk about why this bill is important to me, my locality, and those who have asked me to bring it. It is about parity. I'm a local government attorney, so I do believe in parity in the law, and it is important. I do think this moves us in that right direction by at least matching some of the language between the city council salaries and the Board of Supervisors. But beyond that, this is about increasing access and representation in our local governments and making sure that we have a strong pool of candidates to draw from when people are running for elected local office. That means nurses, TAs, firefighters, young people, people who work low-income jobs who can often provide really valuable voices at that table. I know you guys know this. You're sitting on a committee that means you probably served in local government. I can talk about myself. When I ran for school board, I was a young mom. I was the only person who had young children. And I actually had to pay to serve because I had to pay for a babysitter. And I was the only parent of young children to serve in my school board, any of the Board of Supervisors, City Council, any of our state elected leaders. That's why Vote Mama supports legislation like this. It's not just about me. Right now, local governments are struggling to find people who are willing to do the work when the salary has not been adjusted and is not taking into account the cost of living in their locality. Hopefully I don't shock y'all, but like my babysitter, I had to pay $25 an hour. That's the only way you can get a babysitter.
Okay.
So that's the reason.
Thank you, Delegate.
I would love for you to...
We'll take any opposition, and we'll take those in support if you have speakers. Those in opposition, please come up, state your opposition to House Bill 456. All right, those in support, please come up, be brief, state your name and support.
Morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm David Blunt here on behalf of the City of Charlottesville, which does support this bill. Appreciate Delegate Clausen bringing this to you at its request. As she noted, it's been over a quarter of a century since these caps were changed, so we're really just trying to catch up. I believe that there is a member of City Council who is online that would like to speak at the appropriate time as well. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Good morning, Michelle Gowdy from the Virginia Municipal League. For all the reasons you heard, we support the bill as well.
Great, thank you. Come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Kelly Harris Braxton, represent Virginia First Cities Coalition, and we strongly support this bill. We have for a number of years, and we hope this version will go through. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And online, we have one speaker. Please turn on your camera, state your name and your support.
Hello, yes, this is Michael Payne speaking on behalf of Charlottesville City Council. I'll be brief. I will echo the comments others have made. I routinely talk to people who want to run for office, who are firefighters, teachers, nonprofit leaders, who decide they simply aren't able to because the low salary and the variable hours means they can't serve our local community while also providing for their families. I think the substitute ensures that abuse is not possible and that this bill represents an opportunity to improve the quality of local representation in local government, as well as ensure more ordinary working people can run for local office. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, we have questions from the committee. We have Senator Hackworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron. So does this bill have any type of provisions that would make sure that they have a certain percentage of a reserve met in the local budgets before that they can increase the salaries for the council and members?
Delegate Carlson.
Chair, I would answer the senator and say that no, it does not. It has the same provisions that are granted for the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a motion. I'd like to speak to the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to report. And speaking to that, number one, the delegate has shown a great amount of fortitude in terms of taking the initiative to really do a lot of work in the last week to try to put this in a posture that would hopefully reflect the will of the committee, even though I voted for the original bill. I think this is entirely reasonable. Number two, because it's drawn to the same way that boards, county supervisors, and town councils do, they do not have a reserve requirement, in order for them to meet their salary requirements. Therefore, this one does not and should not as well. Either all three need to do it, or none of them should. That's kind of the way I look at it. And then, lastly, Mr. Chair, I would just remind the patron less is more when you present, and don't never talk past the sale.
All right, there's a motion and a second.
Oh yeah, I do. Guilty.
Mr. Chair.
It's the first time I've been guilty of it. Last time I didn't say enough, so I was like, I'm going for it until they pulled the umbrella. They came.
Senator Williams-Graves.
Mr. Chair, to the patron, I just want to also echo thank you for working on this bill. It is a really good bill, having served on City Council for 10 years with absolutely positively no raise at all whatsoever. I would say thank you on behalf of every City Council member, and I would second the motion that Senator Rome has already made.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report the substitute. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 10, noes 4, 1 abstention.
That bill reports. All it takes sometimes is one more Monday. Well,
Thank you all.
good to see you again. All right, next up we have Delegate Phillips, followed by Wiebert, followed by Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two, so I guess I'll just start in order here.
Yep, House Bill 1511 and House Bill 1512.
Yes, sir. HB 1511. This bill updates the City of Martinsville's charter to include the same language found in some companion bills from the 22 session, HB 173 and SB 85. They had sunset provisions that sunset in 2026, which is why the city is asking and seeking the charter amendment. At heart, the bill requires a referendum to be held before Martinsville initiates municipal reversion. And that's really what the bill does. So, I mean, there are a lot of stakeholders involved in this. One of the issues when reversion came up last time is Martinsville does have a school system that did not want to resolve. So it became a major issue in the community. One of the reasons when the referendum language was added that City Council did not go forward with it is because it's that unpopular in the community. And so that's what they're asking for.
All right, those in opposition to House Bill 1511, please come forward. Any online? All right, those in support of House Bill 1511. You have two online? All right, please, we've got a bunch of other bills. Please be brief. Turn on your camera, state your name and support.
Aretha Ferreira Benavides, you may begin.
Our Vice Mayor is also on board, and he will speak a little bit on it, and I'll turn over to him, but just saying that the city is in support of the bill.
Perfect testimony. Next speaker. Thank you.
Hi there. I am Vice Mayor Aaron Rawls. I just want to speak in support of the bill, and to Delegate Phillips' point, one of the consequences of pursuing reversion, as the city has done, as he mentioned, the education system would be dissolved, and as part of the city's materials, it announced that all educators would be terminated from their positions. Reversion is a very long process, so as you might imagine, we now have several dozen unfilled teaching positions while we kind of overcome that miasma of messaging. So what we'd like to do through this bill is just make sure that if the community ever wants to pursue this in the future, it does so with requisite citizen input, that all of our institutions are aware of what's going on. Thank you all for hearing me.
Great, thank you very much. We have questions from the committee. We have Senator Williams-Graves, followed by Senator Rome. Senator Williams-Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Didn't we, to the patron, didn't we have this bill last year? I mean, I know you weren't here last year, but
so in 2022, we did. Senator Stanley actually carried it on the Senate side, but the bill had a sunset provision, which is what we're seeking to remove. It's sunsetted in 2026. we're asking just to get rid of the 2026. So that would be in their charter henceforth because of all the issues that we've stated. Again, we have a majority-minority school district, the school superintendent, the city council. Everyone is in opposition. A reversion to make financial sense would require the school system to dissolve, or there's no reason to do it. Therefore, the city and the county spent millions of dollars wasted over this process, only to get to a legislative fix here in the Senate and the House. And so what we're saying is give the people the opportunity to vote on it. If they want to vote their school system out, that's up to them, because that's literally what we're really talking about here. And we don't think it makes good financial sense for anyone at the moment.
Senator Rome.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking to the bill.
Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, when I was the CC&T Charters Chair in the House in 2020, we had 3 different bills that came up regarding this. And we had basically gotten rid of all 3 of those bills at the time because there was still a number of disputes between Henry County and Martinsville. And I wasn't satisfied as Charters Chair at the time that we were not basically just ramrodding something through based on one side's point of view. It seems to me, and I hope that the patron I hope I'm speaking factually to the patron in this case, and please let me know if I'm wrong, or to Senator Stanley in this case, that in the last 4 years since then, there's been a lot of ironing out, a lot more quarrels, a lot more back and forth, but it seems to whatever extent possible peace in the valley is obtainable, that is the position that we're at now, where Henry and Martinsville are at least in a relatively level, they at least have a level of agreement here that makes a ballot referendum reasonable to do at this time.
Thank you. I agree.
Thank you, Senator Rome. Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I did carry the bill that actually, and wrote the bill that said if they were going to revert from a city to a town, that they had to have the approval of the population of the city of Martinsville, a very proud city. And I remember saying they don't make cities in Virginia anymore, and once you ring that bell, you can't unring it. And it was overwhelming to me, the response I got from the churches that I visited, the pastors, the residents, the phone calls, of how they did not want to revert to a town. And they asked me to find a solution, and I came up with this bill. The patron is exactly correct as a sunset provision. But this in the charter, I think, embodies that Martinsville government believes in its citizens. And I think that's one of the most important things, especially a city that was once on the mountaintop during the Industrial Revolution is now working so hard to revitalize its economy. We've stopped the population outgrowth. We're bringing in people now, and I think we're bringing in businesses, and this demonstrates a confidence level that the people have in the resilience of their city, and we should not let them down or disappoint them. So I'll be voting for the bill, and based on that, I'd make a motion to report.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report House Bill 1511. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 14, no 0, 1 abstention.
Thank you. And next up is House Bill 1512.
Yeah, this is another City of Martinsville charter bill, House Bill 1512. This bill primarily includes technical changes that bring elements of the charter into congruence with Virginia law, updates processes to modern sensibilities. The city charter hasn't really had hardly any updates since the 1950s. So what it does is allows for special meetings of council to be requested verbally by telephone or by electronic means, not by just letters or something typed. Council compensation section updated to mirror state law rather than having a pay per meeting requirement like it does now. Require that the city manager be a resident of Martinsville. Present city council appointed officers from also being employees, such as serving as both city attorney and assistant city manager, which we just had in the not too distant past, caused some issues. Allows legal counsel to participate via telephone or electronic means. One of the reasons they're asking for that is they do have outside counsel, and that doesn't require them to come to a city council meeting every time since they're out of town. Updated bond section to reflect Virginia Public Finance Code, Chapter 26 of Title 15.2 of the Code of Virginia. And lastly, an updated budget, accounting, and audit section to ensure no single auditing firm may be hired for a term of greater than 3 years. That's just good governance. They've had the same auditing firm for a number of years, so if there are any mistakes, they're unlikely to find their own mistakes.
Thank you, Delegate. Any opposition to House Bill 1512? And I know we have those in support still online, I believe, as well. I see thumbs up online. All right, I got visual thumbs up from online. All right, Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron. Mr. Chair, I would ask the patron in this case that given the last bill, is this bill basically, even though there's not a sunset clause on it, would it more or less sunset pending the outcome of the referendum? Or would the patron and possibly Senator Stanley be bringing legislation next year to change the or to change the entire charter so that it's reflecting of a town council as opposed to city council? Well, if it reverts, yeah.
We're assuming it won't revert, right? I think the bill we just brought would allow for a referendum. I think it will be unlikely that you will see a referendum. They have that opportunity now based on the 2022 language. As soon as that language was enacted, suddenly the will for the city council to do it, because again, it was so unpopular, they knew it was unpopular, went away. So I'm assuming if that were to happen, there were to be, I mean, it could happen again, you never know, but then I guess they would have to obviously do away with the charter and have a town charter. I don't know, but as it stands now, these are what they're requesting in the city's charter. I'm not sure if I understood the question or if I answered it properly.
So, Mr. Chairman, follow-up question. Mr. Chair, would the delegate agree that bringing forward a reversion bill that is not expected to pass, even though we are now passing a reversion bill today, and then having something here that's basically asserting the rights and responsibilities of a city council and a city's charter kind of is in conflict with each other in terms of will and intent?
Senator Stanley.
Actually, the bill before makes it kind of set in stone that the city will never revert unless there's a vote by the citizenry. So it's not a reversion bill. It's it pushes us far off of reversion ever again.
Kind of is, though.
Kind of. I mean, the potential is there if they voted it, but it really, I think the issue of reversion for the city of Martinsville is dead. It's not coming back. The people of that city, the proud people of that city, will not and do not want to give up their city status.
All right, House Bill 1512 is before the committee. Is there a motion?
Move to report.
As a motion, a second to report 1512. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you very much.
That bill reports. Next up, we have Delegate Wiebert, then Lopez. Then we've also got Shin and Walker we're going to be presenting. I'm sorry, you're going to take on Walker as well?
Yeah, Walker. If you would like, Mr. Chairman. Walker. First up, my bill 725.
All right, House Bill 725.
Yeah, so what it does is it allows the conveyance of a utility easement from a locality through to a residential property without notification requirements. So essentially, requirements of local government tell citizens seeking a resident-only utility service easement across a local government-owned property that they must wait. Current says that they must wait 30 days to get electric service, go through the public process. What this seeks to do in that narrow circumstance that they don't have to, so that way the homeowner doesn't have to wait for that easement and only for a residential property. Currently, there are some exceptions. There are exceptions that are similar. Leasing a real property to another public body, political subdivision or authority of the Commonwealth, conveyance of a site development easement or utility easements related to transportation projects, public property, including easements for ingress, egress, utilities, cable, telecommunications, stormwater management, other similar conveyances. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman. And the bill came out of basically out of Orange County and the Rapidan Regional Commission, and those folks are here to speak in favor of the bill.
Great. Thank you, Delegate. Those in support of House Bill 725, please come forward and state your support.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Eldon James on behalf of the Rappahannock-Rapidan Regional Commission, Orange County. Orange County requested this because they had circumstances where residential property owner had property abutting county property, needed to get an electrical easement. The county had to force them to go through a public hearing and delay their access and run up their costs because of the cost of the advertising the public hearing. County board felt that that really isn't necessary because nobody shows up to those public hearings. It's a very narrow exemption, and that's the bill. Thank you.
Those in opposition to House Bill 725. All right, Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for the patron, possibly for Mr. James, so don't go too far. So, Mr. Chair, I would ask the patron this. I reached out to him over the weekend regarding any concerns about constitutionality with this, and I was just wondering if the patron or Mr. James could speak to basically whether there is an issue in terms of Article 7 of the Constitution.
I'll let Eldon answer that question because we've been working on those.
Thank you.
Mr. James.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rome, we had the county attorney weigh in. The county attorney wrote correspondence to the delegate. I believe the chairman has a copy basically saying there is no conflict under Article 7.
Thank you. So, Mr. James, just so you know, for whatever reason, between laundry and stuff this weekend and looking up different sections, happened to consult with A.E. Howard's Volume 2 of Commentary on the Constitution. So Article 7, Section 3 of Powers of Transfers specifically provides Section 3, the transfer of facilities, and facilities means public goods and lands. The current exemptions of the public notice section solely relate to transfer of facilities or utility easements or other property. That's the only current exclusions, which is between public body and public body. Is that correct?
The current exemption, yes.
Right. And so the issue is under the powers section of Section 3 of Article 7, it clearly indicates those powers outlined and those duties outlined by localities and expressly says that they can do those and transfer those facilities. Hence, sort of the public notice require a carve out. Now, this bill seeks to then provide it to a private owner independent of the issues of whether or not someone actually filed for the easement or not. And that's sort of the issue. A.E. Howard, in this section in commentary, notes that one of the primary points in provisions, and it should be noted that in Virginia, and not alone among state constitutions, in placing some limitations upon localities' conveyance of property or granting franchises, and although not identical in origin, the restraints imposed by Section 9 bear on interesting resemblance to public trust doctrine, which comes into play when the state attempts to dispose of its natural resources or otherwise prejudice the public's interest in the public trust. And so what he's doing is connecting both Article 7, both Section 3 as well as Section 9 of the Constitution, basically constructing that is of essence to have the public interest in public trust met. And the way we do that is through public hearings. And so if one has a conveyance of a public land and easement, whether it's a future pothole arising from it or a future neighborhood issue, at least there's notice provided to someone versus something being transferred, which is of a public good, to a private rights and private entity.
Mr. Chairman, number one, I appreciate everything you just said. I am not an attorney. My background was a county administrator years ago, and I referred this to the county and the county's attorney. Yeah. And the response we got, this is the response we got.
It is. Thank you. And Senator Rome.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion. And speaking to the motion.
Senator Rome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to continue the bill to 2025 with perhaps a letter to the chair to the localities in that case, and hopefully or the Commission of Local Government, so we can get an answer to the chairman's concerns. And then if there's a way to tailor the bill next year to address the chair's concerns, that would probably be best.
All right, there's a motion and a second. There's a motion, a second, and Delegate, I want to say I love the delegate, and I think you're doing the yeoman's work to represent the area.
We're just trying to do the work of the people.
And they should be proud of the work because I know you've dug into this issue, and I think there's probably a couple more things to take a look at before we go here. So this motion. There's a motion, a second, to carry with a letter, Commission on Local Government. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Thank you, Delegate. And you're going to take up...
If I may, Mr. Chair,
yes,
real
sir.
quick, for Walker's bill. But first, I'm going to have to get a copy of that for light reading in my laundry, I guess, doing my son's laundry.
Yeah, so House Bill 755.
Yeah, so what it does, under current law, localities can adopt an ordinance to impose penalties against blighted properties. These are industrial properties, up to $3,000 a year to $250. What Delegate Walker's bill does is it would expand those civil penalties up to $6,000 a year. It just double those penalties, and the staggering of fines would remain the same for each violation, so that they could stagger those. So it would be, $500 a month or whatever for that's all the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you, Delegate. Those in opposition to House Bill 755. Please come. Questions of the committee? Is there a motion? Is anybody awake?
What's that?
Mr. Chair, move to pass by temporarily.
Yeah. So.
Do we have another meeting coming up?
2 other bills coming up.
All right.
Let's do that.
Delegate, would you... We'll take this by temporarily.
Oh, sure.
While the committee wakes up a little bit and focuses on the bill. Delegate Lopez.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, members of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 951 is a local option bill that permits any locality in the Commonwealth to provide protections for building service employees. So janitors, lawn care workers, when they contract with when they contract to work under is turned over to a new contractor. So when the contractor they work under is turned over to a new contractor. Building service workers in Virginia generally have no legal right to keep their jobs if the contractor they work for changes and the incoming contractor decides not to retain the existing workforce. They don't even have the right to get meaningful notice that the loss of their job is imminent, so they can look for other employment. Federal law already requires that workers in most situations receive notice when large-scale layoffs are happening so they can attempt to find alternative employment. But unfortunately, these protections don't apply to workers in this situation. This legislation would empower Virginia localities to enact displaced worker ordinances and provide protections to service workers when their employer changes. And so this is a much more narrow version of the bill that came out of or where it was addressed in the Senate. And it simply allows localities to require notice or for incumbent contractors that they alert the worker that a change in contractor is pending. This allows the workers to start looking for alternative employment. It allows localities to require awarding authorities or incumbent contractors that they provide the names and contact information of the existing employees to the incoming contractor. This makes it easier for the incoming contractor to start the process of contracting which employees they will retain. It allows localities to require the incoming contractors to keep existing employees on for a 90-day period with exemptions for certain circumstances. And like I said, this is an option. And it also allows localities to require that the incoming contractor provide a written evaluation of the employees. This allows workers to go to prospective employees and show employers and show that they were not let go due to poor performance.
Great. Thank you, Delegate. So this is a bill that did not go through this committee, but went through general laws. It did pass through general laws on a partisan vote and was re-referred to finance. This bill's in the same posture. Since it was not heard in this committee specifically, we'll take testimony of similar subject, but from a different portion of the Senate. So those in opposition to House Bill 951, please come forward, state your name and opposition, and then we'll take those in support, and then questions of the committee.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Chrissy Noonan with Reed Smith on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. This legislation, as introduced, appeared to only apply to public bodies and public contracts, and it has since been broadened to apply to all contracts, including private contracts. This means, for example, a new security company retained by a private business would have to keep all of the prior security company's employers on the payroll for at least 90 days. The Chamber continues to have concerns about requiring private companies to keep on a former contractor's employees for 90 days, and as such, we would respectfully remain opposed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Bisma Ahmed with the Apartment and Office Building Association and the Virginia Apartment Management Association. We have very strong concerns about the bill. Essentially, if a building owner was so dissatisfied with the operations of a building that they chose a new management company, especially if that old company was not responsive to tenant needs, we want to make sure that they have the right to retain or not retain contracts, especially if they're not effective. So we ask that you oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Those in support of House Bill 951, please come forward, state your name and support. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is, can you hear me? My name is Alexandra Al-Mukhtar. I'm here on behalf of 32BJ SEIU. I stand in support of House Bill 951, which is a permissive bill that will grant Virginia localities the freedom to pass worker retention laws, also known as displaced worker laws, if they determine them to be right for their own labor markets. These laws can also help maintain continuity and quality in the service that the public receives and can minimize unnecessary taxpayer expenditures on social service costs attached to unemployment. The worker retention framework permitted under this bill preserves a high degree of managerial control, ensuring the employer's right to downsize their workforce if they determined they could perform the work with fewer workers, and also their right to terminate employees for cause at any time. Employers could also terminate any employees with or without cause following the 90-day transition period. By enacting this legislation, Virginia lawmakers can grant localities a critical tool to make their economies work better for their own labor markets. On behalf of our members and all working families in the state of Virginia, I urge you to support House Bill 951. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Tanya James on behalf of Freedom VA. We are in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Tram Nguyen with New Virginia Majority, and we support the legislation. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good morning. It is Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kayla Mock. I'm with UFCW Local 400. We also are in support of this bill.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Julia Newton, SEIU Virginia 512, and we strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, questions in the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Rome.
On behalf of two of my constituents there, move to report and refer to Finance.
All right, this motion is second to report and refer to Finance.
Can I speak to one quick thing?
All right, Delegate.
Mr. Chairman. The bill is for both public and private, but I want to be very clear. We've narrowed the bill significantly to the point where it's mostly a notice bill and it's all local options. So localities may require some of these things to happen. And so I appreciate that allowing me to clarify.
All right, there's a motion and a second to report and refer to Finance. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 8, no 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, Delegate Weber, back to Delegate Walker's bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to reiterate, the bill allows localities by ordinance to charge enhanced civil penalties for certain local property violations only that is zoned for industrial or commercial purposes. The bill was requested by the city of Lynchburg and is supported by the Virginia First Cities. Lynchburg, like many other localities, is going through a major redevelopment, and this enhanced penalty would help them address commercial and industrial portions of the city that are no longer an acceptable or beneficial condition. And so what the bill does is it allows by ordinance the city to double those penalties.
Great. Thank you, Delegate. Senator Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe this is an unfair question since he's not the patron, but as I read this bill, it's about it's punishment for people who aren't keeping up with their grass, their trash, their clutter, whatever. And this applies to all industrial and commercial people, regardless of their size, right? So you might be thinking about the big guys, like a Capital One commercial zoning, but this also applies to the small guy who might be barely making margins by. And so it kind of really hits a broad swath of people. Is that correct?
Delegate Weaver.
Yes, I mean, it's going to affect anything, if their ordinance is via the industrial and the commercial areas, it's going to affect anybody that's in those areas that they're trying to revitalize.
Yep. So delegates, as I understand it, current law allows localities to adopt an ordinance to impose the penalty for blight. It's up to $3,000. This bill does it to $6,000 a year. Right now, under law, it's $250 a month. The new bill says $500. So basically, you've doubled what's already existing in code.
That's literally what the bill does, sir.
All right, the bill is before the committee. Is there a motion? There's a motion to report.
Substitute motion.
Is there a second? All right.
Substitute motion moved to pass by indefinitely.
There's a motion and a second to PBI House Bill 755. I would prefer that the patron be available to speak to the bill, and we're not going to be meeting again.
Unfortunately, the patron is...
The patron is indisposed and unavailable this morning.
Mr. Chair, substitute to the substitute motion.
So we cannot do that. There is a motion to PBI, which is now the substitute.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Suderline, speaking to the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think I like the policy if the patron's here, if the patron's not. But if the situation was reversed, I would like at least it to go by, and if he can persuade us, or a majority of us. I don't think I'm going to be a yes vote on this either way, but I just don't think we should kill it today without him present.
I withdraw my motion.
We're going to, I heard that as a motion to pass by for the day.
Yes, second.
All right, this motion is second to pass by House Bill 755. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have Delegate Shin's House Bill 914. She is also indisposed. Senator Rome has agreed to help present that in her absence. Senator Rome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 914 would authorize localities that have an established local historic district pursuant to Section 15.2-2306 through the adoption of an ordinance by their governing body to provide tax incentives for the conservation and renovation of historic structures in historic districts, which such incentives to include tax rebates. The availability of local tax rebates for maintaining historic properties would assist in offsetting the associated added cost and provide recognition and appreciation for the role such property owners play in the social and economic health of their jurisdictions. And according to the patron, there are people in the virtual meeting room who can speak further to the need for this bill at the request of the town of Herndon.
All right. Those in opposition to House Bill 914, please come forward. All right, and we have one online in support. This is a bill that passed out of the other chamber unanimously, but please go ahead and state your name and your support for the bill, and be brief. We've got about 2 minutes left on this docket.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Lori Sigler. I'm the Deputy Town Attorney for the Town of Herndon, and I'm currently counsel to our Historic Board. I'd like to thank Senator Rome for introducing the bill today and Delegate Shin for being the patron. The amendment, SB 914, is permissive authority that you'd be giving to a Virginia locality that they would have to pass an ordinance to provide tax incentives for conservation and preservation of historic structures. This would be another tool in the locality's tool belt, if you will, to allow incentives for owners of historic properties who really burden the cost of keeping up these properties for the benefit of the community.
Thank you so much.
Move to report.
There's a motion and this motion is second to report House Bill 914. Clerk, open the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
All right, that bill reports. And clerk, does that complete our docket for the day? All right, thank you for the clerk, council. Obviously, we have one bill that's floating. We'll follow up with the delegate and see if we have some discussions on the status of the bill between the patrons. We may have a committee chair meeting at the desk to deal with that one, but otherwise we've completed the committee's work for 2024. Motion adjourned.
Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.